questions and comments today, that's there available to you. And as being a Teams meeting and a webinar, we are recording the session. It will only be shared back with attendees. So just to be aware of that. And if you want to get in touch with us, there is a QR code there that makes it very easy to send us a message after the event. But of course, you'll have our details as well. So I think we might get started. So it is lovely to welcome everybody here today. It's a special day in Cultivate's history because we will be sharing with you the launch of our social impact framework. My name is Katrina Tarka. I'm the founder of Cultivate Sponsorship, and I'm delighted to be joined. This is about the business benefits of investing in these sorts of leadership development and human development opportunities, and really then being able to measure the flow-on effects across all sorts of different critical levers. In Australia, we've also got the 7 switches now, and the Champions of Change are really focusing on different levers that they say work, and we'll deep dive into those. So we were looking at all of these different levels when we started to say, how is it that we will develop this framework? What is it that we want to measure beyond just the NPS or did we like it, would we recommend it? We really wanted to dive into the behavioural and systemic changes that would flow on from investing in sponsorship relationships. The data set that we're working with, we're very proud of.
Things that's part of the program, for those who may not be as familiar with it, is what's called a day in the life of, and it's where the sponsor and the sponsee get to spend, in theory, a day, but there's some flexibility in how they do that. But spend time with each other, experiencing what it's like to be in their shoes and in their role, and what does their day-to-day look like. We had one, we're not recommending that everybody does this, they had a great relationship, but one of our previous pairs, a male sponsor had a female sponsee, and he actually wanted to see what it was like to be a mother and getting the kids organised and what the household was like first, and then coming to work. So the full day, obviously she was really comfortable and happy to do that. So he went to their house. He went to their home in the morning and met the family and the kids, and he spent the day with her, like getting kids ready for school. And then he came with her to work, and it was just such a great experience for them. We had another example where both sponsor and sponsee probably wouldn't get from each other. I think the deliberate intent around having quite a diverse pairing is also that broader organisation piece when we talk about cultural behavioural change. So we don't want it to be so isolated that we're just talking about the pair, or that we're just talking about the cohort and the groups of people. Actually, when we create that diversity of the pairing, it means that the sponsors may not necessarily understand completely the sponsee's role, their function, how future progression or goal setting or professional development works in that space. And it directly encourages them to reach out to another senior member within their organisation to say, hey, as an example, Katrina's my sponsee in finance. I know not very little about finance. I'm in commercial. How can I help her? How do I support her? And so it helps kind of create this environment of cultural change where it's not one person talking about their sponsee, but one person talking to many people about their sponsee. And that's how we build that environment of positivity.
And what I've also seen happen is it's changing that traditional leadership sort of behaviour in a talent sense of, I advocate for my bench, almost like my bench strength is virtually indicative of how great my leadership is. And you get leaders now talking cross-divisionally about other people's talent, how great they are, and then going and opening doors. And if you think about sustainability at a true organisational level, this is all leaders being sort of like talent spotters for the whole organisation and stewards of the talent process, and breaking down that almost hierarchical talent thinking. And I think that's been something I've observed that's been done quite well in a number of organisations that have had sort of those 4 or 5 years of cohorts now.
That's right. And I think it also, and our leaders have really spoken about this as well. It also talks to, and we all have bias, it talks to their unconscious bias and their way, and the way in which each and every one of us will lean into some behaviors that are regular and consistent because we feel like we know what's best. And so it opens this vulnerability or this opportunity for vulnerability. And like you said before, it's not just about the sponsees, it's about the sponsors as well. It gives them this great opportunity to connect with their peers at a very different level and in a different way. So, it's as much for them as it is for our sponsees. And we find we have a last year, back end of last year, just quickly, we ran our second cohort and we tried to split them between our directors and our general manager cohort. One of our directors he was on our pilot program, and he'd heard about how there was another cohort of Cultivate coming up, and he called me and he said, "Can I be on that cohort?" And I said, "Actually, no, you can't, because we're trying to pair some different people." And he was so disappointed, and I was like, "Don't worry, you're on the next one. We've earmarked you for the next one." So even that in itself, creates this buzz about it. People are excited about it, and they're really keen on the challenge that it poses at times, but the opportunity to really have that direct ability to influence someone's future and in a really positive way.
Which goes on to become part of their legacy, and they become very clarified around that being a part of it. The number of times the sponsors also say that it has opened up their eyes to looking back at their career and seeing how many times they've been sponsored in the past without ever knowing. Suddenly it sort of clarifies for them, oh, all those opportunities that opened up, I never applied for it, I never put my hand up, but suddenly doors opened, and they know that somebody back in their career journey was, putting in a good word for them, putting them forward, and they see that, and that's been invisible to them. And then once they see that they've had that in their own career, they become really committed to doing that for others. And I love that crystallization of awareness, and that is, like you said before, that almost the unconscious bias around realizing how, smooth your career pathway is when there are people smoothing out the bumps for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're here sort of talking about impact. What outcomes, you've mentioned a few, but how do you measure the impact, and what outcomes and impacts have you seen within Laing O'Rourke?
I think I did make some notes. I did want to make sure that I got it right. I think one of the broader pieces of impact, like I said, we've had a few cohorts, but I wouldn't say we've had hundreds of people that have gone through the program. We've been quite deliberate and intentional around that. And it's not a volunteer or sort of, put your hand up if you're interested. We've not kept it quiet. We've been really confident to talk about it and promote it, but it's such a small cohort of people that engage in the opportunity each year. I think for me, the biggest win that we've had for both Laing O'Rourke, the people that have participated and Cultivate, is that the increase in engagement from people, from females in our organisation, who say, "What's that about? I've heard about Cultivate. I've spoken to a few of the sponsees who have done it. I really want to do it. How do I get on that? How do I do that?" And similarly to that example before about that director, our directors are keen and they're interested and they want to be part of it. And so there's this real honest reflection around the fact that we absolutely, like every organisation, don't get it right all the time, but there's this committed desire to be able to want to do more and be able to support people and achieve success. I think also through a number of the sponsees that have participated, I don't think there has been any sponsee, senior female, who has said, "This is what I expected, and these are the outcomes from the program." There has been this great opportunity and realization, as well as with our sponsors, around what they didn't know, and then what they achieved in terms of that partnership. The long-lasting relationships we have. females, sponsees and sponsors who once worked in Australia, who now work in our UK business, and that's part of the sort of the pool to get Cultivate to work in our UK business as well, that are over in the UK talking about it, and asking the question, why don't we do it here in the UK? We have had females who've been part of the program who, for various reasons, have left the organisation and have come back. We have sponsors and sponsees who have been part of the program, working in other parts of our business, and are still wanting to be involved in different ways. So I think that what I like about it is that it's not so single focused on one particular type of outcome. Whilst the framework and the program is consistent, people's experiences are very different. And I love that opportunity for people.
Yeah, you're quite right. And we spend a lot of time in the beginning saying this isn't about promotion pathways, it's progression, and you define progression for you. It could be the person who's going on mat leave and wants to come back feeling confident and connected to the organisation. It could be someone who wants to try something completely new and move right across the business into a vastly different role, or it could be someone who wants to, rise through the ranks as quickly as possible. But everyone defines that themselves, which I think is part of the magic. As you mentioned, very excitingly, we're heading over to the UK for Laing O'Rourke. What do you think some of the key lessons are that you would be sharing with them, and I guess other listeners, if they're starting out? What do you wish you knew in the beginning of managing a program like this in your organisation?
I think trust the process. Legacy is probably a word that really stands out. It's for us, what we're going through is a 6-month program. Only really 6 months when you think about it in terms of the basic program framework, activity, structured approach. The reality is it's not a 6-month program. It's an initial investment of a connection and a relationship that is hopefully long lasting, whether both sponsor and sponsee stay within the organisation or they don't. We hope we're creating those relationships and supporting that through Cultivate program in a way that enables future female leadership in our industry, in our sector, in our society, whatever that might be. And I know that sounds a little kind of utopian view, but that's the reality about it. We want to really support people to foster these relationships that they retain long term. Absolutely. I think, when we talk about, I think Jason who'd made the comment before, about employee experience. So I think we, as we mature as organisations and through industry and also through society around wellbeing, we are maturing around that connection to employee experience, and we're also maturing around the intersectionality between diversity, inclusion, respect, technical skill set, leadership capabilities, and that recognition of the fact that we are robots and we're not just working in particular roles and completing tasks that are listed on our position description. Actually, wellbeing falls into play with everything that we do. And so we really have to understand how does that tie in. And what we're seeing is that cultural element, the behavioural shift around sponsorship really ties together around wellbeing, because it really connects individuals on a personal level with their professional role and who they are within the organisation. I mean, again, not for everybody, but the example of the sponsor who went to their sponsee's home, that was part of that individual's full day in the life of, because what happened